Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of the Weekend Crusaders. My name's Sean Wascrew. With me, as always, is my partner, Brian Michaels, and we are going over 5 movies that came out during this weekend in movie history. Just like always, we're on episode 24. If you guys have watched the show, you know what the show is by now. Yeah, 24. Next week's 25. I'm honestly, Brian, I want to legit ask you this, and I'm going to be truthful, not the I want to piss Sean off kind of answer. Did you think when we started this show that we actually would still be doing it at this time?
Yeah, I think so.
We planned it for the whole year, but did you think that we were actually going to still keep like on task?
Honestly, I think so, because we're both the kind of people who are like, we just want to talk about movies, and like even if like you forgot to start the camera, we'd still be doing the same thing. So
that's very, very true. Part of me was like, part of me thinking is like, I want to say yes, but then I was afraid like stuff would like life would happen and be like, oh, you know, which we
that's the only thing that would have interfered is the fact that we have like 5 movies we have to watch every week. Sometimes that gets a little tough, but
yes, it does. It does. And there's gonna be, is it next month that you have your vacation, or is it in August? I'm
leaving on Friday, so
yeah. So
next week we might have a show. It depends on how my internet is, where I'm going. I don't know yet.
Yeah. So just remember, guys, we might not have a show next week because of Brian going on vacation. Brian's having some.
Also, I'm trying to fix the lighting. Right it's gonna be the kind of show people get ready.
Yeah, bear with us. Brian's having some issues tonight, and now that I said that, I'm the one that's gonna lose internet during the show. Anyway, you guys know we love to play through this technology, interruptions, but we power through anyway. But today we're gonna be starting with our feature film. This is a movie I think I said last week that Brian loves, and I'm kind of on. And I remember this whole week, I was bitching and moaning, going, Brian, I don't want to watch it. Brian's like, you have to watch it. I'm like, I don't want to watch it. Just watch it. I don't want to watch it. And finally, I did watch it last night. But we are talking about one of Brian's favorite directors, because he can't stop talking about this person. I don't think I ever remembered this dude's name until I met Brian, and now I just can't get this guy's name out of my brain. But it is the meta John McTiernan action film, The Last Action Hero. Last Action Hero came out June 18th, 1993, had a budget of $85 million, had a weekend opening of $15.3 million, which was number 2 its opening weekend behind Jurassic Park in its second week, and had a finished box office of $137.29 million, $50 million domestic, and $87.82 million international. Brian, why don't you start? Because I know you're a way bigger fan of this than I am. So go ahead.
So I mean, John McTiernan, director of Die Hard, The Hunt for Red October, Predator, a bunch of other movies people like. This was kind of like at the height of his popularity, and then you got Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is really at the peak of his popularity as well, which is actually one of the reasons I think this movie got shat on a lot at the time of its release, because they marketed the hell out of this. They put it like on the side of like a jet or a rocket or something that's flying in space. There's commercials for it everywhere. There was cross marketing, and people really, I think, hated this movie before it even came out. And it came out, and it really, I remember it wasn't a complete flop, but it didn't do great. And people were like talking about how, Arnold's over. This is the biggest bomb in history. But I think in the years since then, people have actually come around on it, because it is, like you said, it's kind of it's a meta, comedy action thing about the film world. Because like Arnold, you have this kid that gets sucked into this movie world where there's all the movie cliches happening, things like that. And then the second half of the movie, you have the character Jack Slater being pulled out into the real world, where he experiences that things aren't the way they are in the movies. Which of course opens it up to all kinds of humor. A lot of them are just little offhand cameos and jokes and things like that. But a lot of it, I mean, I think as an action movie, it's actually pretty solid. I think as a comedy, I like a lot of the comedy to it. I think it's very well done. It's got a really good cast. I mean, the kid, Austin O'Brien, is a little annoying, but, I kind of overlooked that. But yeah, this is a film that I thought succeeded. A lot of people, like I said, don't like it. I enjoy it quite a bit. I liked it at the time, I think, better than most people, but now the more I've watched it, I actually enjoy it more and more. I don't know the reason for it, but I do. What are your feelings for it? You'd seen this before, yeah?
Oh yeah, I've seen this at least 3 or 4 times before recently, but it had been a while. Because I was one of those people too, where it's just like, I remember seeing it when it came out, and obviously at the time it came out, I mean, I was young, So I didn't get the whole meta aspect of it. I mean, I understood what the kid gets sucked into the movie, and he's it's not really Arnold. He's with the Jack Slater character. It was just one of those things like I found the kid annoying when I watched it back in the day, and it was just one of those movies that I just didn't. It wasn't one of those that I really ever wanted to go back and revisit and go back to and stuff like that. So, but I mean, I would catch it here. I told you this the other night. I always catch it at the same scene. Every time it's on TV, it's always in the same moment every time, which is the final act. But yeah, that was kind of the main reason why I was kind of pushing back on not wanting to watch it this week. So it's like, I don't want to really have to listen to this kid because this kid is an annoying actor, stuff like that. He's the smart ass kind of young kid kind of thing who is whiny but a smart ass kind of deal. But watching it now, older, he didn't bother me as much watching it the other night. I actually thought his character actually had more levels to it than I initially had thought when I was younger. So I actually didn't mind his character as much. I found near the end, yeah, he gets a little I want to say screamy, because how you get the when they're like at the edge, like they're right near puberty, so their voice gets squealy. Like he gets like that, especially towards the end, kind of thing. But these are one of those we said this with Josie and the Pussycats, where the meta stuff in the 90s or early 2000s for Josie. It was unique, but it was too unique. Whereas by today's standards, if a movie like Last Action Hero had come out today, especially if it was with someone like Arnold, like if it had been like The Rock, going with someone around the same kind of ages where Arnold is then, this would be a huge hit. I think this would have been.
Oh, nowadays, especially in the post Deadpool era and stuff.
And because the way the movie goes, we're starting to bring in like villains from other movies and shit, like especially what we see with like Ready Player One and Lego Movie and stuff like that, where they're bringing other franchises in. The possibilities there could be huge. To the point where I'm actually would be excited if they made one.
Yeah,
today.
I actually feel this movie was ahead of its time in that aspect because, like you said, like that back then, I think a lot of people just didn't. I don't want to say people didn't get it. I think it just people didn't like it.
I mean, it's just they had some weird things in it. I mean, you had the cartoon cat that everyone's just supposed to be like, oh, it's a cartoon cat, it's totally cool, which voiced by Danny DeVito. He was uncredited in it too, which made no sense. But it's just like they just had like weird things in the movie that you just kind of like, oh, it's Hollywood. You just got to understand it, blah, blah, blah. But today it works for me. Like back then I was like, that makes no sense. Why?
It totally worked because that's the whole point is the kid's like, there's a cartoon cat. Clearly we're in a movie.
How do you guys not know? They have the two like futuristic leather robot women, like police officers, and stuff like that. But like to me, like when it was watching it last night, I was enjoying it for the most part. And I remember like you were pushing back and be like, come on, Arnold's hilarious in this movie. And I was like, no, he's not. And I watched it last time like, yeah, Arnold's got some really good lines in this film.
Well, that's the one thing is the script, especially, is by Shane Black. Who anybody who knows me knows how much I love Shane Black and his dialogue. And this is before he started doing his own directing. But I think this is just it's up there with some of his better scripts. So.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I kind of wasn't a fan of. Now, granted, it doesn't take over this film, even though it is a big driving force in the third act. Is the real world aspect of the film is a little over the top. In a sense where it's like crime is just allowed there. And it's just like, okay. I mean, if I was a kid, I wouldn't go back either. I'd stay in the Hollywood world because, real life sucks in his world anyway. But I mean, Charles Dance is a great villain in this as what was his name in the movie? I'm blanking on it. I mean,
Benedict.
Yeah, I was like, I knew him as like the hitman guy with the eye. But but I liked that. Yeah, Benedict. I liked how he changed his eye all the time, stuff like that. And Ian McKellen gets a small role in this, which honestly he sounds like Gandalf or him, in the
Well, this is before anybody who knew Ian McKellen was. Though.
Exactly. He's just death. But like as I was watching, I was like, why does he look familiar? Because I wasn't seeing it, I wasn't connected. And then I heard him talk. I was like,
as soon as he talks, yeah.
Shit, that's Ian McKellen. But there's also like a ton of cameos because it's the premiere at Jack Slater 4, and I was like, man, why did they get like all these like for at that time like A-list actors to be in this movie just to like walk the red carpet and shit? But it worked, and I think also is it Tom Noonan?
Yeah,
Tom Noonan's Ripper. I thought was really good. I really wish we could have got a little more out of him, but I think he's one of those where it's like he was in it enough to be good. Maybe too much of him probably would have saturated it. And I love that the captain, the police chief or police captain, whatever you want to call him,
like unintelligibly, yeah.
Exactly. But then they even used him in Loaded Weapon, which I was like, so, there's great moments in this film. I loved actually now because I'm smarter in terms of a viewer. When the kid is pointing out the movie world, like everyone's got a 555 number. That's just not possible. What? She's too hot to be working at a block. I know. It's like there's like say this word. You're a child. It's like no, say this word. You can't say it. It's PG-13. Like there's all these like great little moments where I'm like that's good. And then of course I
love when he's like, get ready for an explosion. He shoots the car. It's just a little bullet hole in it.
Exactly. Like, when he punches the window, he's like, that really hurts. Like, yeah, no shit. But also I'm blanking on her name. His daughter.
Oh, Bridget Wilson.
Thank you, Bridget.
Bridget gorgeous, lovely Bridget Wilson, who I have always loved. Of course, now she's Bridget Sampras Wilson or Wilson Sampras. I'm not sure which.
I wish they would have given her a little bit more to do in the movie. But I mean, she was great in her small part. But yeah, no, I actually watching it last night. Like I remember, like I told you, I was kicking and screaming watching this thing all week. But I watched it last night. It is a little long. I feel like in the third act it started to drag because when I'm talking about when Slater goes into the real world, it's like let's go. But no, I actually quite enjoyed it. I think it bumped up like a full star and a half on my score. Rewatching it, and it was one of those things where it's like, at the age I watched it then, it didn't work for me. But watching it now as an adult, it did. I thought Arnold was great, and I quite enjoyed it. So I apologize, Brian. This movie's actually.
It's one of those things. Like even the first time I saw it back when it first came out in '93, I enjoyed it, but I was like, it was all right. But then, like, even my opinion's grown on it, and most other people I talk to, if I can get them to watch it again, a lot of them really do. They improve their opinions of it. I don't know if it's just because they're, grown up a little bit, if it's because they've gotten more used to, like, the kind of Shane Black kind of dialogue and kind of the meta thing that now Deadpool and these other things do. I don't know. But most people I know that actually will give it a second chance have liked it more.
Yeah, I think it's more for me, it's the meta aspect. Because back when I saw it, which I think I was 8 when the movie came out, like the kid pointing out the movie stuff to me wasn't hitting because obviously I wasn't paying attention to it, but now, and especially in a world where meta is like its own kind of little special movie category, it hits differently and it actually makes a lot more sense for the character and the jokes land better because of that. Plus the kid is clever, like he does some clever things in the movie because he's got that movie knowledge that I thought was like was it like when he had him burn the money, knowing that it would be a tip off to Arnold in the film, and there's I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm actually glad you forced us to pick because this is one of those where it was like that was the feature movie and I was like I don't know, Brian, I'm not really feeling this one. You're like.
I was like, we're gonna watch either way. If it's not the feature, I was gonna make it my pick. So
yeah, exactly. So I was like, all right, fine, we'll make it the feature, but it's gonna be basically a revisited for me. But no, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I know Brian's going with John McTiernan. What did you expect? It's like
no.
Black.
The man's made some bad movies. Rollerball exists in Basic, so.
Yeah, Rollerball. That was one of those. I remember when I worked in the movie theater. I was like, this is gonna be sick, and it's like, yeah, it's not that good. It's really not. But yeah, last section, Hero. I don't believe. Well, I mean, you can rent it on Amazon, but I don't believe it's on any streaming services for free right now.
Not currently. It's one of those that pops up all the time on one service or another, but it's currently not free anywhere.
Gotcha. But yeah, I would say for anyone who watched it when they were younger and was maybe not a real big fan of it, I would say definitely give it a second shot. Like Brian says, I feel like for $3 or $4, however much the rental is, I think it's definitely a worthwhile rental of Arnold doing a good job of mixing his comedy and action films, which that's the one thing that I think Arnold, like everyone knows he's had a comedy phase, but I think Arnold doesn't get the recognition he deserves for his comedy. And I think Arnold is one of those guys, he makes comedy work for him, whether it be this, Twins, Kindergarten Cop, I guess Junior to some extent. I mean, Arnold's really good at making the comedy work for him. He's one of those guys like back, we said it, a little while ago, like not a lot of people liked Channing Tatum, but then once Channing Tatum kind of started making fun of himself, we all started liking him more. Arnold, he's like, king action star, blah, blah, blah. But then he started making fun of himself and being kind of okay with being the butt of the joke for his, physique and all that stuff. And it's like, damn, Arnold doesn't get a lot of credit for the stuff he's done. Like, he actually deserves more credit for his acting and just everything. Like, not that I never disliked Arnold, but Arnold definitely deserves more credit than he probably doesn't get. But yeah. Anyway, we're gonna move to our revisited film now. This is my film. This is my pick. This is one of those that I think, for the most part, we've seen this kind of movie before, for the most part. But I think because of the two leads, and not even just the two leads, I think the whole cast around. This is one of those movies where it's the cast that makes this film work as well as it does. And I am talking about the romantic comedy, The Proposal. The Proposal came out June 19, 2009, had a budget of $40 million, had a weekend opening of $33.6 million, number one its opening weekend, and its only week at number one. Had a finished box office of $317.37 million, $163.95 million domestic, and $153.4 million international. The Proposal. I mean, I love Ryan Reynolds. I've loved Ryan Reynolds since before he was a movie star, back when he was doing Two Guys Go on a Pizza Place. Sandra Bullock, everyone, I think for the most part, loves Sandra Bullock, especially when she really gets to kind of let go with her comedy, because I think that's where Sandra Bullock also, once she realizes she's probably a better comedian than she is like a drama star. I think, but these two together, and then you add Betty White and Mary Steenburgen. I feel like I say her name wrong every time. Steenburgen. Then you got what's his name? The dad, Coach.
Oh, Crichton Nelson.
Yeah, Mr. Incredible. Malin Ackerman, Oscar Nunez from The Office. This cast just really works for me. The dialogue's snappy. It's fun. Yes, do you know where the movie's going to go before the movie ends? Absolutely. It is not going to try to surprise you or shock you by any means. But it's one of those where the snappy dialogue and the cast around it makes this really, to me, an enjoyable film. I think the two leads in Reynolds and Bullock work really well together. And then you add the comic timing of Betty White. I just really, really like this movie. Brian, what are your thoughts on The Proposal?
I hadn't seen it since probably around the time it first came out. So I wasn't even sure I had seen it until I watched it. I'm like, okay, yeah, because I obviously knew what the movie was, but I was like, have I seen the whole thing? But scene by scene, I started recognizing stuff. I'm like, okay, I remember this. At the time I saw it originally, I was kind of like, rewatched it this time. It's I don't hate it. It's just for me a very kind of average movie. Sandra Bullock in like the 90s when she was doing Demolition Man and then Speed and then While You Were Sleeping and these movies, I really like Sandra Bullock. By the time she hit the 2000s, I was kind of not enjoying her stuff as much, especially like her comedies like that. And then actually in the past few years, I've kind of.
Didn't you like Miss Congeniality?
No, not a big fan of that one.
Wow.
At least it's not as bad as The Heat, which was horrible.
I enjoyed The Heat. I thought Melissa McCarthy's very, very hit or miss with me, but I thought The Heat actually worked really well with those two.
I assumed The Heat would be a stinker eventually. I guess not.
No, it's not.
But so, I mean, this movie, it's okay. I don't have anything really, really negative to say about it. It just, there's nothing special about it. Like you said, it's a rom-com, so it's predictable, which you just learn to accept in most rom-coms. But it's like, first of all, it's like Sandra Bullock in the beginning of the movie is supposed to be like this, mean, horrible boss, which I don't know if she can pull off the mean, horrible boss because she's like one of those America's sweetheart kind of people. But then, like, as the movie goes, I get why she starts to kind of fall for him for real. She softens and she kind of sees like, oh, I remember what it's like to have a family and blah, blah, blah. But I still never really believed why he started falling for her. I didn't buy that. I didn't see anything in her that made him go, oh, I'm in love with this woman. And so by the time we get to the end and he's like, risking everything, going after her, I'm like, okay, whatever.
I think more for that aspect, I'm going to defend it a little bit here, is that he just always knew her as like a cold, heartless bitch. who never opened up about anything. You didn't know anything about her life or anything like that. And then through that weekend, it was more or less situations where he was finding out who she was, why she is the way she is, finding out basically her true self kind of thing. And then also watching how she was around his family, like how she is with Betty White, singing Little John's Skeet, Skeet, Skeet.
I thought that scene I was embarrassed for her. I thought that was just desperately trying too hard for laughs. And I was just like, oh my God.
I mean, could they have picked another movie? Sure. But I'm talking about in terms of the film, Ryan Reynolds at that point, seeing how she gets along with his family. And, she challenges him, which, that's something that he wants. Whereas like with Malin Ackerman, she's gorgeous, but, she just wanted to stay there and not do anything. Whereas like with Sandra Bullock's character, she's going to challenge him. She's going to push him. She's going to make him, better. And then, finding out who she is, why she is the way she is. I think that's where all that stuff mixes. Now, yes, is it over like a 3-4 day span? Sure. But that's the thing. It's like, it's not that he was in love with her. Remember, because even he says, he's like, I would like to date you kind of thing. At the end.
But then they get engaged again. And the questions at the end, like, how long have you been dating? A week.
They had to so she wouldn't go back.
Right, but they were acting like it was for real this time, and it's like. Okay.
But even then, he says, "I would like to date you."
But then, even when she's this cold, heartless bitch, and she's mean to him and everything, and then they have to go to Alaska for this thing, and even from like day one, she was all of a sudden soft. She wasn't like mean to him anymore. It's kind of like, why did you suddenly flip that switch? It seemed like
she had to pretend to like him because
even when they were alone,
the family was going to get questioned as well. If she was a bitch the entire time to him, then it would have blown the whole thing up.
But even when they're alone, she was so nice to him and everything. Anyway, but like I said, I didn't hate this movie. For me, it was nothing special. It was kind of like, okay, forgettable rom-com number 237.
Oh, that is way, way higher for rom-coms. I enjoy it. Like I said, but you have one of my favorite actors in Reynolds. So, I mean, for the most part, I mean, there are some not good Ryan Reynolds movies. I watched one today that I was like, it's okay, it's fine. Here's a newsflash. It's a sequel that just came out. But it's like, I like him. I like the people that are in the movie. I think Betty White's Betty White, but it's still funny. Mary Steenburgen looks gorgeous as always. I think she's just one of those actresses that just always, for the most part, looks fantastic. And then, like I said, Sandra Bullock, I always enjoyed Sandra Bullock. I may not have watched all her movies. Like, I still haven't seen The Blind Side because I just feel like I would find her annoying in that film, which is why I don't watch it.
I haven't either. It's like I said, this whole late career Sandra Bullock, I've just no interest in.
How did you not like Miss Congeniality, though? She's great in Miss Congeniality. I don't know why you can't.
I wasn't impressed with Gravity. Didn't see The Blind Side. Didn't see Our Tremendous
Gravity was not her fault. Gravity was not her fault. It failed because of the script. Like that's
the problem is it did fail. But people praised it. And got Oscar nominations. I'm like, really? Anyway,
it's not Sandra Bullock's fault that Gravity is not more than a one-time watch and never watch.
Oh no, I don't think it's her fault. I'm just saying the project she's chosen to do in the last half of her career. I'm kind of like,
Would you have said no if you were her? If you were like, hey, you're going to be it's Alfonso Cuarón, right? You did Gravity, right? You're gonna be in an Oscar potential film with Alfonso Cuarón, who's won awards, and with George Clooney. It's just gonna be you two. I wouldn't have.
I don't blame her for going for Oscars or for going for paychecks or whatever. I'm just saying I have no interest in the movie she's choosing to do. That's all I'm saying.
All right, that's fine. Proposal is not on anything either, I believe. No. But yeah, I enjoy it. It's a fun rom-com. If you like Sandra Bullock, if you like Ryan Reynolds, if you like Betty White, I think you guys will enjoy this movie for the most part.
Anything else that's worth a watch. It's not bad.
It's enjoyable. And that dog's adorable in the movie. As an adorable dog. Plus, you get to see, I think, the closest you'll ever get to seeing like Sandra Bullock naked in a movie as well. And Ryan
Reynolds too, for that matter.
Ryan Reynolds too. So anyway, we're going to be moving on to our revisited film. This film has been acclaimed to being one of the best comic book movies of all time. Am I lying in saying that, Brian?
No.
Okay. That's telling you exactly where this is going to go right there for me pitching that. But we are going to be doing the one of the very first comic book films ever in probably movie theater or movie history. We are talking about the sequel to Superman 2. Superman 2 came out June 19th, 1980, had a budget of $54 million, had a weekend opening of $14.1 million. Number one its opening weekend, spent its entire theatrical run, which is 3 weeks, at the number one spot, and had a finished box office of $108.18 million. Yeah, I mean, Superman. I mean, we've had different adaptations of Superman. I mean, we've had, like I said, Christopher Reeves, who we're talking about right now. We've had Smallville. We've had Lois and Clark. We've had Henry Cavill. We got the current one going on right now with Lois and Clark, whatever the new Superman show is, with Tyler Hoechlin. Yeah.
Brandon Routh, you skipped.
What's that?
Brandon Routh.
Yeah. I mean, we've had different adaptations, but I think most people have always said that Christopher Reeve is the best one, or it's the most true to Superman because, he's nice and corny and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, corny is definitely a term for it. And I think that a lot of people like to use the term corny to defend a not well-written film, which to me is this film. I rewatched this, and yeah, I don't think it holds up well. I don't think it's good. I really don't. Brian's going to defend it, and he has every right to. But yeah, I hated watching this. I remember this as a kid. I remember as a kid liking this. I did not enjoy watching this whatsoever, but I'll hold off on that. Brian, your thoughts on Superman 2?
So Superman 2, like you said, it's one of those ones, and I grew up watching this because I was perfect age when this movie originally came out. And so I loved it at the time. And of course, it was for the longest time acclaimed as one of the best comic book movies of all time. Now, for the longest time, it wasn't saying much because there wasn't really much of anything.
Very true.
But I do think that if you watch it through today's eyes, after seeing what comic book movies have become, then yes, this is a far inferior film to what comic book movies have become. But I don't think that's a bad thing against this movie because, like I said, when Superman the movie came out, it was basically the first comic book movie. If you're not counting the old serials of Superman, things like that. So you had nothing but Superman until like Batman '89 came out, and then there wasn't really much anything besides Batman until you got into 2000 and so when you get like X-Men and Spider-Man stuff like that.
Not Blade.
And then of course there's for the most part anyway. So I mean, at the time this came out, I think comic book movies, superhero movies, were seen as a child's thing. It's this is the thing for entertaining children. It's comics. It's superheroes. People didn't take superheroes and comic books seriously. So yes, this movie is totally cheesy. The characters are very, it's all very black and white. It's like he's the good guy, truth, justice, American way, and they're the bad guys. They're evil intentions, things like that. And there's no gray area with anyone in these movies. But that's just the way comic book movies were seen back then. Now I know that you think that's just an excuse for bad writing, things like that. But I think that's just at the time this came out, you're like, this was entertaining. People, this is what they wanted. They loved it. But now we've seen what they can become, and they've grown to be so much more. Christopher Reeve, I do think makes a great Superman. He's a little bit too goody two shoes to the point of a little corniness. I will completely concede to that, but he played the part perfectly, except for the pit stains he always has in these movies. They come a long way in the costumes as well. Apparently, Superman sweats a lot.
I mean, he's wearing basically a unitard. That's probably not very good airflow. So yeah.
The three villains of Zod, Ursa, and Nan. I think that Terrence Stamp does fine as Zod. It is again a one-note villain. I will concede that. Nan is way too cartoonish as the big dumb brute. I mean, he almost went. In the words of Ben Stiller, I think he went full retard. I'm quoting.
That wasn't Ben Stiller. That was Robert Downey who said that.
You're right. I'm sorry. I was just thinking Tropic Thunder.
Poor Ben Stiller.
I mean, he was talking about Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
Sarah Douglas is Ursa. I think she's fine. I mean, she's she's playing kind of a one-note character. She's just got one thing that's hers, and that's fine. All three of them, we'll say, wear way too much makeup. I swear they just came from getting a makeover. Maybe that has to do with the fact that, back then you didn't watch movies in super HD, so you didn't catch these kind of details. But
yeah, that's true.
It is.
That's true.
But I mean, I think the action, while the effects obviously are of the time, you can forgive a movie for the effects. But I do enjoy this movie. I really went into this expecting. Now, when I went back and watched it a few years ago, I lowered my score. I don't think it's one of the best movies of superhero movies of all time anymore. But I still enjoy it. I went in there. Sean rewatched it before I did. I knew that he was trashing it, and I'm like, man, I bet I'm going to hate it too after watching it. I don't hate it. I don't know if I'd still say I love it, but I still very much enjoyed it. I didn't mind it at all. Sean, go have your way.
Look, I mean, if we were in a debate match, you're using some good things to defend this film. This has nothing to do with what comic books ended up becoming. That's not the reason why I dislike it. It is not the not so good special effects that they're using for the flying, even though it's all like,
oh yeah.
You can't. I'm not attacking it for that. It is what it was back in that time. You can't. That's like dogging a movie from the 1940s because that looks really fake. Well, no shit. It was 1940s. I'm not attacking it for that, and I'm not even attacking Christopher Reeve, who I do think is a really good Superman. I have nothing against his performance for the most part, but yes, I agree 100% with you on the three villains. Yes, he does go full the whole time. Like he's basically Frankenstein's monster in this movie with his dialogue. I mean, he's literally like cradling a police siren light because reasons. I don't know. The girl is probably at the most layers of a character because all Zod wants to say is "Bow to me, bow to Zod," or "Kneel before Zod" kind of shit. But no, what irritates me, and like I said, yes, it is an excuse to say, well, it's one of the first comic book movies. It's for kids. It's supposed to be, kind of corny shit. No. We have seen films 20 years older than Superman that is way well-written dialogue, way better written dialogue, that is what performed better. To use, it's a comic book movie as an excuse is bullshit. Margaret Kidder, right?
Margot Kidder, yeah.
Yeah, Margot Kidder's Lois Lane is so fucking unlikable. She is awful in this movie. Every time she talks, it's cringy. The way she does things, the way she treats people, the way, like, Lois Lane's supposed to be like this iconic character that you're supposed to be like, oh, Superman's like God, but he loves her. Even in future Superman installments, I'm blanking on the girl who plays Lois in Smallville, Erica
Durance.
She's a great Lois. Amy Adams is a solid Lois. Kate Bosworth was an okay Lois, but that's not really her fault. That was more, the script. Mm-hmm. She's horrible in this film. She's awful. I could not stand her at any moment of this film, and I wanted to like her because like I wanted to believe that someone like Clark or Kal-El in this movie would have a thing for her. And there is no reason outside of she's pretty that he should like this character because she's just not a good character in this film. Like I hated her performance of this film. The dialogue throughout this movie, not Christopher Reeves, but the dialogue throughout this movie is atrociously bad. There's the one scene I told you about where they all think Superman just died because it's during a fight. And like the New Yorkers are like, they killed Superman. Let's get him. And then you have all these there's like Zod's blowing the wind. You have this one dude who's hysterically laughing while on the ground doing the phone. You got all this bad background dialogue going on around. It's not just corny, it's bad. It's
in that scene especially, there were a lot of moments clearly going for comic relief, which yes, I mean at the time as a kid,
horrible.
At the time as a kid, I laughed and thought they were hilarious.
No, it's just weird. It's weird,
but it was weird. I will defend the "Let's Get Him" thing because people love to praise stupid Raimi Spider-Man movies. The exact same thing happened in Spider-Man.
No. When
everybody on the bridge starts throwing things at Green Goblin.
They threw things at him. They didn't charge Zod They didn't charge the Goblin. They threw shit at him when he's on the.
Essentially, they were trying to go after the Goblin the same way these guys are going after them.
No, there's not. You literally just saw these guys throw Superman around like a toy, and all these New Yorkers think, "Let's get him." No, you're gonna die.
Was it smart? No, they're New Yorkers. New Yorkers are dumb. Let's just say it like it is.
I'm not saying that, but
I will say that. Anybody you watch this from New York, we don't want you.
Every line of dialogue in this movie is just bad. It's so bad. And it's not even, and like I said, you're saying, oh, it's the 80s, or well, it's 1980. And it's like, oh, it's a comic movie. No, we've seen movies older than this. The acting is fine, and it's not even like, and it's something that would be considered like, let's say, even a comedy, an older comedy. It's written better. The timing of the comedy is better, and it's just acted better. The acting around everything in this movie is just not good. It's nostalgia goggles for all the people that think that Superman 2 is a great film. No, it is not a great film. It's the same thing with Batman 89. Everyone thinks Batman 89 is one of the best movies of all time. Yes, Nicholson's great. Keaton's great. Basinger is fucking awful in that film. She's atrocious. And everyone else in that movie, not that great. But it's Batman 89 and it's hallowed ground. You don't talk bad about Batman 89. It's fine. But it is not the best Batman movie of all time. Superman 2... Granted, I don't know what the huge differences are between the Donner cut and this, except that it's like 20, 30 minutes shorter, thank God. But I remember watching this as a kid and going, because I remember Zod and the other two, the girl and the Frankenstein's monster guy, blanking on their names. I remembered it differently. Like, I remember, like, because of all the Superman films, this is the one that I remembered was those three fighting Superman. And I remember enjoying it. Like, I don't remember the Superman throwing a logo blanket.
Okay, that's one of two things I want to mention. The one things I criticize. Let's start again. The criticism I do have of this movie, they just started this. In case Superman didn't have enough powers with.
Oh yeah, we were going to talk about this anyway. So yeah, go ahead.
Light and invincibility and heat vision and his cold breath and super strength. They basically Superman's the most unimaginative character ever made. So like this is let him do everything. This movie they just started inventing powers.
Yeah.
Okay. Now when the three supervillains show up and they start showing different powers, like they're like levitating people and things like that, I'm like, okay, maybe it affects people differently. They get different powers, that kind of thing. I can go with that. But Superman's like throwing his logo and it like gets super big and arrests people. He's creating clones or like clones of himself around the room.
Which that one I can say they're in the Fortress of Solitude. Maybe it's a security thing. I would allow that one to kind of be okay.
And then there's
his ghost bomb did come out of the fucking stone. So yeah. I'm defending that one. But the next one, yes.
There's spoiler alert, people, for a movie that's 41 years old.
Yeah, 41 years old.
The kiss of forgetfulness, apparently, where apparently he can just kiss someone and they can forget selectively exactly what he wants them to forget. Not like a period of time. Just I want you to forget this thing. Yeah, that was even as a kid. I'm like, what?
I had to rewind that scene because I was like, did he do something to make him forget? No. Did she forget? Because first off, that scene started off awful to begin with. Because she's like, I'm selfish. I don't want you to save the world. I want you to be mine. But shut the fuck up. And then he kisses her, and she's like, oh, Clark, stop being jealous of Superman. You don't know who Superman is. Blah, blah, shut the fuck up.
But you're right, though. It's like
I messaged you. Go. When the fuck did Superman get powers of a kiss to eliminate their brain? I hate to see what happens if he actually had sex with her.
And it wasn't even like misinterpreting because like I still have somewhere like the old trading card sets from when this movie first came out, and that was the picture that was called the Kiss of Forgetfulness. That's why I called it that. I remember that for some reason.
I mean, fuck, Superman's the ultimate player. Then he can have sex with any woman he wants, and they just kiss him like, yeah, you don't remember shit.
But apparently he can't, because that's the other thing.
That's the other thing too. He had to give up his powers to have sex with Lois.
Well, it wasn't even about sex. It's like if you want to be with her, then you have to give it up. Like, why?
No, it's because it's the 1980s and like.
Is this the Krypton rule? Because you're all dead, so screw you, mom and dad.
Exactly. Like, do you, bro?
or you do her,
bro. Yeah. And then it's like literally like was it like not even like 2-3 hours? No, it was like 6 hours later because they do have sex.
Here's
Like
the thing: is they
he
do that.
immediately regrets it. He immediately regrets it. That
It's like the morning after. He's just like, "Oh shit, what did I do?"
like, the sex wasn't as good to get my ass kicked out of the diner that I immediately.
Let's talk about the visit to the diner. So they go to
so solid. I don't care. I love it.
So he goes to it's the North Pole. He's supposed to be the Fortress of Solitude at.
Yeah.
Apparently, within pretty close distance, there's this diner. But it's like, how come when he goes there, and now he's not Superman anymore, apparently he decides he doesn't need to wear his glasses anymore, nobody goes, "You look like Superman."
Because he gets pumped.
Not a single person who does a double take.
Oh, my blood. It's my blood.
And then he goes back later in a very un-Superman-like fashion and like with superpowers beats up a dude.
Spins the dude all the way fucking up on the stool. And then throws him down the thing.
Which, by the way, the guy apparently was clothes.
I was working out.
Jesus
Christ.
Yeah, and it's like he goes back to that. He knows the guy apparently lives at the diner because he shows up there and the guy's still here, wearing the same clothes. Maybe he just never left. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so I mean, there are things like that, and the whole thing of giving up his powers in the first place.
Not to mention either that when he leaves after that, he walks back to the Fortress of Solitude with barely any like winter clothing on.
Oh, he walks to the North Pole, folks.
Yeah, he would have froze to death getting back there.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know where he was exactly, if it was Canada, because everybody spoke perfect English. So it seemed like America to me.
That is very true.
Maybe I'll give him Canada. But
they're basically
wherever he was, he walked to the North Pole.
That diner is basically Georgia. Let's be real here. But this movie's not good. It's not good.
I'm not going to defend it as the greatest superhero of all time. I'm not going to defend it as a great film, but I still enjoy watching it. There's nostalgia goggles, yes. There's also just, I remember how much I enjoyed it as a kid. It is what it is, but I still enjoyed it.
It is
not something I'm going to watch a lot. I watch it like once every 10 years and I'm good.
It's a bad movie, guys. I mean, it is not good. I wish I could say better. I haven't even watched. I can't remember the first Superman that well, except for him going around the world in reverse, because apparently that's a superpower too. Which that's basically the Flash's kind of superpower for the most part. But anyway, I don't want to go back and rewatch those because I dislike this that much. And it's like, I can't go back and watch the first one.
If you dislike this one, really don't ever watch 3 and 4. Just say that.
No, I never have seen 3 or 4.
I'm saying if you did, you would consider this one comparatively.
Yeah, I thought I did, but apparently I haven't seen it. That or I just didn't review them because I just don't remember. Because I could have sworn I watched the one with Richard Pryor, but maybe I didn't. But
we just watched Office Space at the same plot, so
pretty much. Anyway, Superman 2, it's on HBO Max along with all the other Supermans. Like I said, I'm not knocking Christopher Reeves. He's a really good Superman. He really is. But the movie around him, especially Margot Kidder, is fucking awful. Anyway, we're moving on to Brian's pick. This movie is an animated film. Disney, everyone loves Disney, right? This is one of those movies that for me, I don't remember really enjoying. I didn't hate it when I saw it, the first time. But this wasn't one of those ones that I ever went back and really rewatched. But I did this week because it was Brian's pick. We are talking about Disney's Tarzan. Tarzan came out June 18th, 1998, had a budget of $130 million, had a weekend opening of $34.2 million. Number one, its opening weekend. Its only weekend at number one, and had a finished box office of $448 million or $0.19 million, $171.09 million domestic, and $277.1 million international. Brian, besides the soundtrack that everyone talks about, why is Tarzan good? Did you freeze? Yeah, so apparently my question to Brian caused his internet to completely crash out on him, but Brian is back now. I don't know if you heard what I said, which was, Brian, besides the soundtrack being great, which is what everyone talks about, why is Tarzan good?
So Tarzan came in 1999, which I think was the end of
98.
No, 99.
It says 98 for me.
Mulan was 98.
Never mind. It's 99. Yeah, Mulan is 98. Shut up.
So for me, it's like the end of like the golden era of Disney, because Disney, the Renaissance kind of started with Little Mermaid, and of course, you got Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, and all those, and all the way up through Tarzan. I think they were that was their strongest streak ever. And after that, they kind of started putting out some mediocre shit. People will disagree with me, but they're wrong. I mean, come on, Emperor's New Groove is not that good. No matter what.
I love Emperor's New Groove.
Lilo and Stitch is an okay movie.
I'm okay with that. I love
Treasure Planet, Brother Bear, Home on the Range. I mean, there's this streak. Anyway,
I agree with you on all that, except for Emperor's New Groove.
But anyway, so I think this is kind of like one of the last great films they made. Now, it's based on the same old Tarzan story. There aren't really a lot of changes or anything to it. So it's not, anything groundbreaking. But I really like the way the movie was done. The animator, Glenn Keane, the head animator, he's the guy who was like in charge of a lot of the best ones, like the Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, things like that. And I think Tarzan, the animation in this for a 2D animated movie, I think is so well done, especially because the action, the way they kind of turn Tarzan into almost like this extreme sports guy is like surfing through the trees and swinging and stuff. And the cinema, it almost has like cinematography to it, even though it's an animated film. It's got like a real scope to it that a lot of movies don't have, especially in the kinetic action and the movement of it. I like the style, the way it's done, the whole beginning where basically it jumps right into the movie. And like, in scene one, it's like, oh, here, we're killing off Tarzan's parents. It kind of tells that whole story essentially in like the opening credits kind of thing. And then moves on from there.
Very Pixar.
It really kind of is, except here, this one continues to be good, whereas Pixar movies, have that good opening, and not all of them. I'm just talking about Up mostly. But
yeah, I agree with that. All right.
Yeah. But you talk about the soundtrack. I like the soundtrack. I think it's got a lot of good Phil Collins songs to it. I was not a huge fan of it at the time, just because, I like musicals as far as the animated films, and so I think this one very easily could have turned into a musical and not tried to do the Phil Collins thing. Clearly, they were trying to copy their success with what they did with Elton John doing the whole soundtrack for Lion King, and these songs are good. I don't dislike the songs. I'm just kind of like ambivalent about them. They decided they did have to shove in one song, so they have like the animals singing that one. I forget what it's even called.
I don't know either.
At the campsite with the trash in the campsite, whatever it's called. That one's kind of like, okay, they could have cut that out. It seems like they need to throw in one like funny song for the kids. It's a little unnecessary. But yeah, I mean, I like the voice acting to it. Rosie O'Donnell, not a fan of, but I think she's fine. She didn't bother me too much. But I just think it's a well-made movie. I think it's one of those that kind of gets kind of forgotten, or at least underrated. But I think it's a really good Disney film.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's what it was for me. It was forgotten. I forget about Tarzan. When I think back to Disney, I mean, the Renaissance, that what people call it. Mm-hmm. It's like pretty much after Hunchback. To me is when I kind of, I was at that age where I was becoming a teenager and like, oh, Disney films are for kids kind of thing. Like Mulan came out, I skipped Mulan. I still haven't watched the animated Mulan. I still haven't.
Really?
No, I still haven't watched it.
Excellent one. You should watch that next one.
Hours, people are bugging me so profusely about it, especially since I saw the live action one and not this one, that I'm like, I'm just not going to watch it now.
The animated one is really good. I would also recommend Hercules. It's a lot of fun.
No, I love Hercules. I actually really like Hercules. But I mean, I would say Hercules then is probably the last one. And then like for me, it's like, Mulan I didn't really watch. Tarzan just didn't really appeal to me. I liked Emperor's New Groove. What got me into that was Spade, because it was Spade. But like Lilo and Stitch was and then like I said, Brother Bear, Treasure Planet, whatever. But yeah, I forget about Tarzan. Not because it's bad. It's not a bad film by any means, but it doesn't. It's not, to me, it's not memorable. It just isn't. Now, yes, I agree with you. It looks gorgeous, especially like I said, when he's swinging through, kind of like doing like the extreme, like his feet are going like in and out on the vines and stuff like that. It looks really good. The gorillas outside of Rosie O'Donnell's, I think, is done really, really well. Rosie O'Donnell's just annoying. Plus, I couldn't tell if she was supposed to be playing a boy gorilla or girl gorilla. I want to say she was more of a boy, which is also weird that Rosie O'Donnell's doing the voice for that. But anyway, but it's just the story. I mean, yeah, it's a story of Tarzan. I get that. it's just that I don't know, just like the whole middle, like where he's just like hanging out at their campsite, learning how to, how he be a human and stuff like that. It's not appealing to me. It's just boring. And then like you said, yes, we got Phil Collins music, which is nice, but to me, it takes the essence of what a Disney film is, which is the characters singing. Beauty and the Beast, like, or even with Lion King with Elton John, like, yes, you had, Elton John's songs, but you still had like Timon and Pumbaa and like all of them singing in the film. This, outside of like the campsite song, there is no singing by any of the characters in this film, and so it just kind of feels flat in terms of a Disney.
I definitely would have rather. And you know what I think which actually I'm going to contradict myself here. I was going to say, because I would have preferred to see a musical, and I almost think that the reason they didn't go musical is like they figured, Tarzan. This was me making generalization. What I think they were thinking was boys aren't going to want to go see a musical. Boys, this is a Tarzan and the Boys movie. But then that totally doesn't work because you just had Hercules and you had Aladdin.
And then you also had Mel Gibson as John Smith in Pocahontas.
Ignore what I just said. Although the reason I think that, though, is because in recent years, Disney has gone out of their way to, and they've said, I've seen quotes from them that said boys don't want to go see fairy tales. So they took Rapunzel, which was the name of it was going to be called Rapunzel. They said, no, we'll change it to Tangled. The Snow Queen. Oh, no, we're going to retitle that one Frozen, because they don't want to put those fairy tale names because they think boys won't go see it.
And I think we all like Tangled quite a bit, and I think for
we,
the most part,
we do. I think it's funny that they're afraid to use the names because no, we have to give them funny names now. But anyway,
that's just the thing with Tarzan for me. It's like, yes, it looks great when they do action sequences, like the scene in the beginning with baby Tarzan and you have the gorilla fighting cheetah. It looked like in the movie. I thought like that.
I think those battle scenes are very well done.
Oh, yeah, and then at the end, the final battle sequence, especially the way they killed what's his name? What was the name of that guy's name? What?
Clayton.
Yeah, Clayton. I thought that was for a Disney film pretty brutal.
It's dark. It's very well done too. They technically didn't show up, but it was clear what happened, and
yeah, exactly. If you were a kid, you probably weren't understanding what happened, but anyone who can understand what that is, it's pretty dark. But I like that, in this sense. But that's the only part to me that I was thinking about, like thinking of it in terms of like an adult is because when we see baby Tarzan and we see the gorilla, we see his parents dead on the floor. And then when he goes back to the house, I'm like, oh my God, are they going to show the skeletons? Because I doubt those babies I doubt their bodies got taken away. But obviously, when you're like, Sean, it's a fucking Disney film. They're not going to show the skeletons. They're going
to show the half-eaten corpses. That's
exactly. This is like, I was like, oh, their bodies are probably still in there. This is not going to go well. But it's like, it's a Disney film, Sean. What are you thinking? But yeah, it's just like, tell me you didn't think that, because I thought that.
I didn't think that.
I thought that right away. It's like those bodies are probably still there. But yeah, it's just. It's fine. It's fine. Like that's one thing too. Is like Minnie Driver's great as Jane. I didn't hate her performance in it. And I get like it's voice acting and you don't need names to be voices. But Tarzan, I was just kind of like I just wasn't really gripping with the Tarzan character. Like I wasn't really invested in him, and he's the main name. And it's just because, I don't know, it's like his performance just didn't really do a whole lot for me. But I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I just don't love it. This is the way it is for Tarzan. Like it looks great. I agree with you. The scope of it, cinematography, it looks fantastic.
Well, it's probably up there. I think was the best animation Disney's ever done as far as 2D animation.
I don't disagree with that. I definitely don't disagree with that. It's just the story itself just kind of. Yeah. Anything else you want for Tarzan?
Not mostly covers it for that. That one is, of course, on Disney Plus. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. We're moving to our final film, which, of course, like most of our shows, is the stinker film. We're so creatures of habit, Brian and I. We pretty much always either start the show or end the show with the stinker because it's the one we had the most to talk about. This stinker, man, I think the last week, I think we were like, oh my God, this movie's going to be.
Well, we almost didn't pick it because we're like, this is too low-hanging fruit. This is too
exactly. I don't know what we were gonna. I can't remember what we were gonna pick, but we were almost like, we're really gonna pick this. Like, this is just too easy, and we're like, yeah, screw it, let's pick it anyway. So we picked, like I said, an actor that we talked about last week and a movie that Brian is not a fan of, but he's in the sinker this week. We are talking about Mike Myers' comedy, The Love Guru. The Love Guru came out June 20th, 2008, had a budget of $62 million, had a weekend opening of $13.9 million. Number 4, its opening weekend behind Get Smart in its first week, The Incredible Hulk in its second week, and Kung Fu Panda in its third week, and had a finished box office of $40.87 million, $32.2 million domestic, and $8.6 million international. Now, I think a lot of people, for the most part, will remember The Love Guru as pretty much the last starring role outside of Shrek for Mike Myers. I think you and I were discussing this last night while we were watching it. It was basically, outside of like starring in like, or like having little cameos like in Inglourious Bastards and like Bohemian Rhapsody, this is the last film he like did as a starring role. Now he's rumored to be coming back for a fourth Austin Powers, which we'll see if that ever happened. But I remember you and I were just like, oh, God, let's get this over with. But something happened while we were watching this stinker that we weren't prepared for. We were actually having a really good time watching this movie. Now, I will admit, yeah, Ryan's going to fight this, but there were so many scenes where he was busting a gut.
We were having fun watching this. I'd say it was a fairly even split, though, of laughing with it and laughing at it.
But and this is the one thing I think you and I have done. This is the first time we've done this, and I think it's going to be a normal thing for us where we're basically like, wrap it up, wrap up the joke, wrap up the song, let's go, kind of thing. But you and I are having a fun time watching this movie. Whereas normally when we watch a stinker movie and we're having a fun time, since we're having a fun time making fun of how bad it is, this one, there were some good jokes. There were some good zingers. There were some good one-liners that Brian and I were just laughing our ass off watching it. Mainly from Justin Timberlake, who is hilarious in this film. What'd you say?
Thump.
Which was the first big laugh of the episode. Like, that was the first one that you and I just like lost it on that scene. But yeah, and it was like even they did that joke later, and it was still funny. It's just like, but yes, you were saying this, and it's like Mike Myers sometimes just can't get out of his own way. Sometimes they just let him go too long, which I agree. Most of the time when we were doing this, it's because it was Mike. Mike was just beating the joke down into the ground like he does in the Austin Powers movies. But for me, for some reason, it works. For me in the Austin movies, it doesn't work in something like this. But the people around Mike Myers in this movie, such as Jessica Alba, who we love, Timberlake, Romani Malco, even Vern Troyer. I think around those guys around him make this movie not nearly as bad as I think we all remember it being. Brian, your thoughts on The Love Guru?
Well, yes, I mean, before I looked at my original rating for it, original review, and it was a 0.5 star. And I was talking about how horrible this movie was, and I'm like, oh, I am not looking forward to watching this again. But I watched it with you, and I don't know why. There's enough stuff hit. Now, maybe it's just because this time I go in knowing what to expect. I didn't completely hate it, though. It's the kind of thing where I'm not saying it's a good movie. I still think it is a not a great movie. But, I mean, there was definitely things in it I enjoyed. Jokes I laughed. I think in my review, I think my words were there were just enough things that were funny for me to raise my score from total shit to below average. That's how I phrased it, which is I think the best way to kind of put it, because I mean I'm not going to say it's a great comedy or anything.
No.
But I mean there were funny parts. Now mostly yes they were from Justin Timberlake or from some things that Vern Troyer's lines, things like that.
Mike Myers had some good lines.
He had a few good lines. The problem with Mike Myers
is what you said about like 50% of the time he hit.
And this has always been Mike Myers in any movie he does. Mike Myers is one of those guys who goes for quantity. He's like, if I throw out 100 jokes, people will laugh at least 10 of them. And the problem is that's what he does here. There's jokes that hit, but then for everyone that doesn't hit, there's 10 that just aren't funny. And the problem is, especially in the ones that aren't funny, he thinks, well, if I keep going with this joke long enough, maybe people eventually will laugh, and they don't. And he keeps going like, okay. And even the ones that do work, you're like, okay, we get it. Can you move on? And so there's just like
you had us, and now you're losing us.
Yeah, like there's like you mentioned briefly the musical performance of the songs. And it's like, oh, that's funny for 30 seconds, but then they play the whole 3.5-minute song, and you're like, really? So I mean, there were funny moments in it, and yeah, I did laugh. I don't think this is a redemption in any way as far as saying, oh, this is
redemption in terms that it went from a stinker to probably not as bad.
Yeah, we haven't changed our mind like, oh, you know what, this is actually a good movie. It's more like, this is one of those movies like, this isn't nearly as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Is it bad? Yes. Are there funny things about it? Yes.
But I think you and I were both in agreement that this movie itself was funnier than probably the last 15 Adam Sandler comedies.
Probably. Although I also said I put this one, I think I said at the time I put it on par with the Austin Powers movies. I think I put it just below the Austin Powers movies because this one does definitely have a lot of worse, like really not funny. Like the whole thing of like every time somebody had a name, he was like, Heron McKeister or something. People had stupid names. It's like, okay, this is just the worst kind of.
Or that was it the Markeisha Hargitay.
Oh, Mariska Hargitay. That joke didn't get old after the first 3 times.
Yeah, and then she even shows
up. And
up.
they did 100 more.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I lost my train of thought where I was going with that. But yeah. So I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I think that was bothering me, and it was not to the point that made you pause the movie because I was like, okay, this is just driving me insane. Was when the comedies related around sports, but they don't understand the sport. Which it's Mike Myers. He loves hockey. Like this is like they made it seem like Ramone Malco's character was basically LeBron, hockey, and it's like without him they can't win. It's like you do realize that like the star player on a hockey team plays maybe like a third of the game because they do line shifts and all this kind of like. It's not like in the NBA where LeBron will play 48 straight minutes or baseball where you have like your Mike Trout's hitting and playing the entire game, or even football with Brady and the defense and stuff like that. It's like it's hockey. Like you do realize that like he's only playing maybe a total of a period in this entire game throughout because you shift them out every 3 to 5 minutes. But like apparently his team cannot do jack shit with him not playing. It's like,
which I think says more about the rest of your team is shitty.
Exactly. It's like then your team fucking sucks. Like that was the great thing about like Mighty Ducks, Mystery Alaska, all these other hockey movies is that it wasn't like a straight up star player. You had a player who was the best player, but everyone else around him were solid role players that like they could score goals without the star player scoring goals. And this one's like, well, fuck, if Ramone Malco's character is not playing, then the Maple Leafs can't score, and their goalie apparently is shit. But apparently, if he plays, then all of a sudden, like they can't score on their goalie. It's like Ramone playing doesn't stop the other team from scoring goals on their shitty goal. It's just like that part was aggravating the hell out of me. Did I ramble long enough for you to catch what you're trying to think of?
So yeah, they have this scene in the flashback to when he was a kid, and they have like but they don't even superimpose his head on they have the kid's body, superimpose his head, not even normal size, like bobblehead size. Yeah, it's just it wasn't even. First of all, the scene wasn't funny at all, and then you have for no reason he has the head thing that doesn't work, and it's like just stop.
And poor Ben Kingsley.
Oh, poor Ben Kingsley. I'm sure all these people, there's so many people that make cameos in this movie and like, oh, the Austin Powers movies were so popular and so funny, and we sure will be a part of your movie, Mike Myers. But then you have to think like somebody like Ben Kingsley comes in and does this, and you're like, really? Is this what you wanted to sign up for? It's like
cross-eyed, making like fart jokes and like penis jokes and
borderline racist on half the jokes. It's just like
this dude was Gandhi.
He was Gandhi.
He was Gandhi. But I will say probably one of the funniest lines of the entire film wasn't even in the movie. It was in the credits where literally Vern Troyer makes his comment. And it's as Vern Troyer. It's not the character, but it's as Vern Troyer. He makes his line. And like Brian and I are just laughing the entire time the scene's going, which everyone else is too, because it's a perfectly timed line that Vern Troyer delivers, and it was such a beautiful way to end the movie. Like we're like, oh, they're gonna do credits, and it's one
Yeah, the only one thing, and it's his line.
And that was it. And it's like, you know what? You're right. Don't do anymore. Like that was the perfect way to end this film because it ended the right way. Plus Jessica Alba. So I mean, naturally, we had nothing negative to say about Jessica Alba.
Because I mean, I'll watch Jessica Alba do almost anything.
Exactly.
And Justin Timberlake, I think, is so underrated as an actor. Both dramatic, actually. If you saw him in Homer this year, but especially when he's comedic. I mean, people really have started noticing when he did Saturday Night Live. But even in movies like this, he shows up. Movie's not great. He's hilarious.
Everything he's in is funny. Yeah. Even when he slides up. When he slides up to him for the penalty shot, which once again never would happen in sports, he just goes, "Damn," and then just slides back. It's like we know what.
And then you show why he says "damn."
Cool.
But then you talk about them not understanding the sport and things like that. Then there's the whole climax with the elephants that come out on the ice.
In more ways than one.
The elephants come out on the ice, and you're like, why would they just allow this to happen? And since it's the owner of them that's making this happen, why wouldn't they get disqualified or something?
Yeah, like the NHL would have fined.
I get it. It's a comedy. You're not going for realism, but you're just like, this is just so over the top dumb.
But like also like Justin Timberlake's infatuation with Celine Dion in the movie.
If you're gonna try and write in something like that, like he obsessed with Celine Dion, you'd think, okay, Celine Dion will make an appearance in this movie. They couldn't even get her. They showed like the back of her head singing a song.
Yeah, they got someone basically to look tall and lanky and like oh yeah, from a distance that might be Celine Dion, but we don't do a close up shot so we can't get her. But it's like even Justin Timberlake in this film, he's got a fro, he's got a funny mustache, he's always wearing like a big fur coat. And then, of course, obviously the reason that makes him funny, which we're going to hold that off for people who maybe have not seen this movie and want to watch it, just that whole aspect. I mean, let's put it this way. His last name isn't it like Lecoq?
Well, they call him Jacques Lecoq.
Jacques Lecoq. If that doesn't tell you what the joke is, I can't help you. It works. It's childish, yes, but if it works, and it's hilarious. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those like, yes, this is a stinker, and we normally would just rip this movie to shreds. And yes, there are aspects of this film to rip up. But for the most part, Brian and I were having a lot of fun watching this together. There was just so many moments. Like even Jim Gaffigan and blinking on his name. Stephen Colbert.
Yep, Colbert.
They were hit and miss, but when they hit well. When they missed badly. Especially Gaffigan, that one part where he just kept going. I'm just like, oh my God, he's still talking.
Yeah.
But like sometimes, like when they hit though, they hit perfectly. And even though it's ridiculous, like some of the hockey plays actually looked really fucking cool. Like stuff that I would never have seen in a hockey game because probably they would have gotten murdered if they did that in a hockey game. But it looked good.
Like when he was like hopping over people and stuff.
Yeah, like that would never happen, but it looked really good. But yeah, Love Guru. I don't think it's on anything currently right now, is it?
No, it is. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Oopla. It's on Paramount Plus. So a couple of places.
Yeah. So it's one of those movies where it's like, yes, this effectively for the most part ended Mike Myers' starring career. I think he can come back at any point because it's Hollywood. But
I will say this. I respect him for doing this movie only because I really think that this character seemed like something from like a bad Saturday Night Live sketch that he would have done when he was on SNL. Yeah. It's like when they made a movie of like It's Pat, or they made a movie of
Don't Mess with Zohan.
Yeah, it's like these things don't need to be movies. They could be some bad sketch on Saturday Night Live. But I respect him for trying this because, at the time he'd done several Austin Powers movies. He'd done a couple of the Shreks by this point. I don't know where I don't know where
you were just starting where you were talking, and then you froze, and I lost audio on you right away. So I don't even know what you were going to say.
I was just saying that I Married an Axe Murderer is still my favorite Mike Myers movie. And he's gotten so into his franchises when he did Austin Powers movies and he did Shrek, things like that I liked when he would like try these one-off movies. And so I respected him at least for trying something different with this one. Was it a good movie? No, but you know what? Watch it. It's worth a couple laughs at least.
Yeah. Like I said, that's free on Prime right now. So feel free to check out. We're not saying it's the funniest movie or even, or anything like that.
Oh, I wouldn't even say it's a good movie. It's just not as bad as its reputation.
It's like below average, like what you said. It's below average.
Went from shit show to below average. Yeah.
Yes, from total shit to below average. That is the Brian Michaels guarantee. But we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe on the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, obviously,
Maybe.
yeah, maybe. That's right, maybe. But no, we should have I should have a review of potentially The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. Also, I think America the Motion Picture comes out this weekend as well. Next week we've got, is it Fast 9 or not Fast 9?
This weekend, yeah.
Yeah, it's Fast 9, right?
Next week's Fast 9.
Next week's Fast 9. So there'll definitely be a review of Fast 9 from me. Won't be with Brian because Brian will be gone. We will hopefully see us here next week for the Weekend Crusaders because, we don't know.
My home internet isn't even good, so who knows what's going to be like where I'm going. Maybe it's better for all I know.
Exactly. Brian's internet's been very, very spotty. Obviously, you guys have seen that so far this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, it's internet. You guys know how that happens. It's
Have fun editing, Sean.
What's that?
Have fun editing.
Yeah, this is gonna be a bitch to edit. But yeah, so if Brian can, do next week's episode, we do have 5 more new movies coming out. Came out next week. We have a stinker that I have personally never seen that Brian says that we have to have as our stinker. He showed me the trailer. It looks.
Well, I've never seen it either, but we watched the trailer.
We showed the trailer and it looks god awful. We've got a crime comedy. I don't know how would you want to describe that.
I kicked out of the chat, so I have no idea.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's your pick. It's your film.
Oh, yeah. It's a
dramedy.
It's a crime film. There's definitely a lot of comedy to it, but I think it's a great film, an underrated film.
Yeah, I've watched it, but I don't remember much of it at all. So it'll basically be like almost watching it for the very first time. We've got a horror classic that I've never seen. I've seen parts of it, but I've never watched it from beginning to end. And I definitely will need to check this out because it's one of those, it's like, how have you never seen this before, Sean? Well, I'm going to see it. We've got, to me, one of my favorite Pixar films of all time. I love this film. I think it's one of the most gorgeous and beautiful.
One of my favorites as well. That
Pixar has ever done. And then for my personal pick, it was between 2 comedies from the 80s that I love. I love both these comedies so damn much, but Brian hates one of them so badly that I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to be a good buddy co-host. I'm going to pick the other one. So we're going to talk about that one. Don't think I'm not going to bring up that other one if we shoot this episode next week. Or we're not going to talk about these movies at all because Brian won't be here. And we'll figure out what the hell we're going to do when Brian gets back. We might shoot both episodes and then just drop them out of sync. Who knows? We'll figure it out. Depends on Brian's internet connection wherever he's at. But we're the Weekend Crusaders. I'm Sean Watts-Krug. That's Brian Michaels, who's once again having shitty internet connection issues because he looks like he's in analog mode, not high definition. Yes, don't do the robot and then act robotic because then I can't tell if you're broken or not. Anyway, we are the Weekend Crusaders. Until next time, in case we don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.